Did you know that because of Amazon's most recent updates, over 25% of KDP's categories that we can enroll our book in during the initial book setup actually does not exist over on Amazon anymore? And because they don't exist, they no longer benefit our book at all. And that's what this video is all about. Hi there, I'm Eevi, an award-winning children's author and ghostwriter over on eevijones.com and the creator of Children's Book University. I create videos specifically for children's authors, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my weekly videos. If you're receiving my weekly Sunday emails, you may already know that Amazon has implemented a number of updates throughout these past few months, and some of these bigger updates are all about categories. Now, you may have already heard about these category changes, but something that many don't realize is that these updates also change and affect a number of other things, including, for example, what keywords we should be using for our children's book. So I wanted to make sure to make a video that shares, one, what these changes mean to us in our children's book, and two, how we as children's authors can use this knowledge to truly make the most of Amazon's changed category system. Throughout this video, I'll also make sure to show you how we can actually see these changes, both with the help of a tool, as well as how to do it manually without a tool. So let's jump right in and look at 4 category-related changes and why and how they really matter to us. The first category-related change is all about the number of categories we authors can now put our book in. In one of my videos I made last year, I mentioned how we can unofficially add our book to a total of 10 categories on Amazon. But because of Amazon's changes, this will no longer be possible. We now get to put our books into only 3 categories. I've actually been wondering for quite some time if and when Amazon would put an end to this unofficial category stuffing. Because what ended up happening was that many no longer chose a category based on its relevancy to their book. Instead, what became the main and even only criteria for choosing a category was whether or not it had a lot of competition, because a category with lower competition made it easier for a book to rank and therefore achieve a bestseller status. And so completely disregarding the relevancy started to become a problem, because if, for example, more and more books in, let's say, an animal category aren't actually about animals, then the category system becomes pretty much useless, right? And so that's why I believe Amazon made these changes regarding the number of categories. Now, what this change means to us authors is that knowing what categories to enroll our children's books in has become even more important, because they are now truly limited to 3 categories per book format. I've made a whole separate video on how exactly to go about choosing the best categories for our children's books. So I've made sure to share the link to that video in the description below. Now, you may have heard me say 3 categories per book format, and that's actually my big ninja tip for this video I wanted to share here. And that's to consider using different categories for our paperback and ebook. That way we can essentially double the number of our categories. So for example, we could enroll our paperback in categories A, B, and C, while enrolling our ebook in categories D, E, and F, instead of enrolling both our paperback and ebook into the same categories. Fortunately, we can change and update our categories anytime, even after our book has already been published, by simply going back into our KDP dashboard, find our book on our bookshelf, click on the 3 dots and select Edit Book Details. And after updating our categories, we simply resubmit our book. So the first change is all about the truly limited number of our categories we can now put our beautiful children's book in. The second change over on Amazon that relates to categories is a really big and important one to pay attention to. And that is that some of KDP's categories may now actually no longer be a good choice to put our book into, because they simply don't exist over on Amazon any longer. And if they don't exist on Amazon, we also won't be able to become a bestseller in that category. So let's look at an example so we can see what I mean. This right here is an example where KDP's subcategories match those we can find over on Amazon, the way it should be, right? On the left, we see how the category string appears over on KDP. This is what this would look like during our initial book setup. We have children's books, science, nature, and how it works, nature, flowers, and plants. That's the category string on KDP. And if we were to click our way through all the book categories over on Amazon, it would look exactly the same. That's what we see in the middle right here. Again, if we follow the category string, we have children's books, science, nature and how it works, nature, and flowers and plants. And so because this subcategory exists on Amazon, we also have an actual bestseller list for this category, which we can see right here on the right. It's the bestsellers in children's, flower, and plant books. Now let's look at an example of a category that exists on KDP, but not on Amazon. On the left, we again see how the category string appears over on KDP. This is what this would look like during our book setup. We have children's books, science, nature and how it works, nature, environment, fiction. That's the category string on KDP. Now, if we were to click our way through all of the book categories over on Amazon, we would see that the deepest this particular category string goes is up to the environment subcategory. And the associated bestseller list is the bestsellers in children's environment books. Notice here that there's no fiction subcategory. And so because there is no fiction subcategory here on Amazon, Amazon also doesn't have a bestseller list for this fiction subcategory. Meaning if we have placed our book into this KDP only subcategory, our book won't be able to receive a bestseller banner in this category because this category doesn't even exist over on Amazon. Currently, there are about 27% of KDP's categories that do not exist over on Amazon. So the chances of selecting one of these categories for our book is pretty high. And that's not good and not helpful at all to our book because no matter how many books we may be selling, we won't be able to receive a bestseller banner for this particular category. Now, you may be asking, but Eevi, how will we know whether or not a category exists over on Amazon? Do we now have to check each category individually beforehand? Well, and that's where that tool I mentioned earlier would come into play here. If you have watched any of my keyword or category related videos, you may have already heard me talk about Publisher Rocket. I love finding and sharing tools with you that are free. So Publisher Rocket is one of the only paid tools I've ever recommended and that I feel truly so good about sharing because it's just so incredibly helpful and useful in so many ways. And so with these most recent changes, Publisher Rocket just received a major update as well that will help us with exactly that. And everyone that already owns this tool will automatically receive this update as well. All we have to do is simply open the tool and it updates automatically. So Publisher Rocket now has a tag system that appears right next to each category. This tool refers to these categories that exist on KDP but not on Amazon as ghost categories. So instead of having to manually check each category, this tool does this for us. And so whenever a category has this ghost tag within Publisher Rocket, we should use these with caution because again, we can't rank in these. Our book can only rank in the parent category above these subcategories, which would have been the environment subcategory in our earlier example. And if we hover over the tag in this tool, we will actually see other ghost categories as well as the parent category. And again, that parent category would then be the category we should be using instead if we are going for a bestseller banner. The third change over on Amazon that relates to categories is another really big one because again, certain categories may no longer be a good choice to put our book into because while we think that with our selected 3 categories, we also have 3 separate opportunities to receive a bestseller banner, it may turn out that in actuality, these categories fall under the same bestseller list, thereby essentially wasting one or more of our 3 chosen categories. Again, what do I mean? Let's look at 2 categories as an example. This is the first category string. Children's books, science, nature and how it works, nature, environment. And the associated Amazon bestseller list is the children's environment books. The second category string is children's books, education and reference, environment. It's a completely different category string, but the associated bestseller list is exactly the same. It's again the children's environment books bestseller list. So if we as authors place our children's book into these 2 separate categories, thinking we're giving our book 2 separate opportunities to rank on a bestseller list, we in fact have just wasted one of our 3 categories because both point to the same list. Unfortunately, 54% of the categories on KDP do just that. 54% are essentially duplicates that, while having different category names, actually have shared bestseller lists. Now, thankfully, Publisher Rocket's update addresses that as well. So each category that appears more than once over on KDP now has a duplicate tag. And if we hover over this tag, the tool will also provide us with a list of those duplicate categories. That way we can make sure we aren't accidentally placing our book into two categories that point to the same bestseller list. Now that we only get to choose 3 categories for our children's books, picking the right categories is even more important because we don't want to waste any of those 3 categories by accidentally choosing duplicates or ghost categories. The 4th change over on Amazon that relates to categories is that Amazon may now take our book out of categories if it feels that it might not be a good fit. I mentioned earlier that instead of choosing categories that actually pertain to our book, many authors selected their categories based on how easy it was to rank in them, completely disregarding the relevancy of this category to their book. But relevancy is important, right? So that's what this change is meant to address. Now, besides always making sure we are choosing categories that are truly relevant to our children's book, what else can we do to ensure our book remains in our chosen categories? Something we as authors can do here is reinforce that our book belongs in a certain category by making sure we are using keywords that may be associated with that category. So here Publisher Rocket has an incredible update as well, because now each category has a keyword button, and whenever we click it, it shows a list of keywords that will not only help us stay in our selected category, but that will also strengthen our placement on Amazon. So in this example right here, keywords associated with the coloring books category, for example, are words like creativity, imagination, and coloring pages. So using those as some of our keywords during our book setup over on KDP will signal to KDP that our book is indeed in the correct category. And so it's much less likely that they are taking our book out of our chosen category. So now we can be even more strategic with the use of our keywords. And changing or updating our keywords over on KDP is really easy to do as well. Even if our book has already been published, we can do so anytime by simply going back into KDP's dashboard, find our book on our bookshelf, click on the 3 dots and select Edit Book Details. All we have to do is update our 7 keyword boxes and resubmit our book. Now, if you don't have Publisher Rocket just yet, but would like to make all the research much easier, I have shared the link to it in the description below, or simply go to eevijones.com/Publisher Rocket. I've made a whole separate video on how I personally use this tool for my own books as well as for my ghostwriting clients, because I use it throughout the entire book creation process, because it has so many different functions and applications, whether that's for topic research before the actual writing of my stories, or for my title research to find the best and most competitive title for my children's books, the overall best keywords that I should be using during my book setup, categories of course, and even for my Amazon ads keywords, which is an advanced feature. And I even use it after the initial setup of my books because, as I have shared in many other videos, it's really important to actually go back and update these things, right? Because people's behavior changes over time. Especially with seasonal changes, keywords might be changing as well, simply because people are using different keywords based on the time of the year, holidays, or other current events that might be going on and that might be relevant to our children's book. So having a tool to help get information we otherwise wouldn't have is so valuable, especially with Rocket's most recent update. Because again, KDP doesn't share with us which of their many categories would actually let us rank within them. Again, I don't usually share other people's tools that require a purchase, but with this one, I always make an exception because I find it so useful. To me, it truly is the #1 tool for us authors, and I always recommend it far and wide to fellow children's authors because it provides us with so much additional information that we otherwise simply wouldn't have or easily have access to. For example, it shares the average price of books within a category, or the average number of pages of books in a category, and it even shows us the percentage of bigger traditional publishers within any given category. And of course, I truly trust the creator of this tool as well, as I have helped him create a number of author-related tools for his website over on Kindlepreneur. With Amazon's most recent changes, it has become even more important to choose our categories wisely. Whether you choose to use a tool to help you with the selection or simply double check your categories manually, I really hope that this video helped you gain more insights on how categories are now working and how the keywords we choose are now more important than ever as well. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. It really encourages me to keep making free videos for you just like this one. Here's to choosing the very best categories for our beautiful children's book. Bye!